Hi, so we're still here in MonoDevelop working on our Sapper controller C# script. And in the last lesson, we had created these variables here, which would describe the components on our character. So this one here is referring to the animator component, and this one is the rigid body 2D component that we've got in our character. So in Unity, then just to refresh it, if we look here at our Sapper object, you can see there's the animator component. That this is what we're talking about in our script, and this is the rigid body 2D component that we're talking about in the same script. So in MonoDevelop, then we in our start method here, we initialize those variables like so, using GameObject.getComponent. And again, if you're new to C# in Unity, GameObject this with this lowercase g refers to the game object component of the object that's holding this script. So if you wanted to get out of this script, talk about some other component in on the same game object, this is how you do it. So it's game object.get component, and then in the arrow brackets we put in the type that we're searching for. So my animator is the animator component, and my RB is the rigid body 2D component. And once we found the animator component, we can start talking about things that are in that. So we can set parameters as well. And what we've done is set my animator move speed, being a float variable pertaining only to this script here, to be equal to the move speed parameter that we've got in our animator component. So let's get on to those inputs that we talked about in the last lesson as well, right? So we're going to just use this is really just to get ourselves started and to just to cue those animations that we've been making. So all we're going to actually use is in this script is the horizontal axis for now. So in this script here, because we're using the physics engine, I'm going to change this from update to fixed update. Fixed update does not fluctuate the same way as update does, and it's recommended for using with physics engines in Unity. So we're going to first of all create some input settings, right? So I'm going to put in just a comment here and say if you move right, we want to put in code for moving right, and if you move left. So if we move right, we're going to put in a condition for moving right. That's going to be an if statement. So we'll say if, and then in parentheses, input. So this accesses the input class, where we can get into things like, you can see acceleration events for mobile devices, key events, mouse events, and so on. But like I said, we are going to use the input settings from the editor. A lot of those can be bundled into horizontal and vertical axis controls, right? So that's what we're going to use. So that would automatically remap then if we wanted to later on publish this to a phone or publish it to a console. They would all have some way of handling the horizontal axis. So we're going to say get axis, and we'll say so we'll put an open parenthesis there, and it's looking for a string, the axis name, which if we go back to Unity, you remember from the last lesson, if we go down to our project settings and input, is called horizontal, right? So this is the one that we want, right? So it's horizontal with an uppercase H. So we put it in quotes because it's a string, and close parentheses. So if we and that closes the get axis parentheses, that closes the if, and then we need our curly braces then to put in our actual statement. So let's just get the character turning left and right, just flipping left and right. So what we could do is actually create a variable for left and a variable for right. Now, if we go to Unity, look at our character, and we'll just get the character to flip left and right. And as I said before, we could have done this as an animation. We could have done a whole set of left-facing animations and right-facing animations in Spriter. It saves them out as individual files, and you might want to do that because you might want to create a turning animation. For just the split second where the character turns on the spot. You might want to do like the head turns at a different rate to the body, just for a fraction of a second. I'm not going to do that though. I'm just going to use our right-facing animations and flip them around to the left. So if we look here, in fact I don't even need to do this in play mode, but I can just on the root of the character, right? So before we get into the pelvis bone or anything like that, and of course we couldn't have done this particular thing in Spriter. We would have had to create an extra bone at the 0 coordinate. But since that's pretty much what the Sapper object is, we can just say, if we say the X scale, the local scale of our character on the transform component is -1, she flips to the left. And actually, if I do press play, you'll see that doesn't affect, other than making everything face left, that doesn't affect any of the other movement that she has. So yeah, she's not like at a strange angle or anything like that when she changes animation. So we can just flip that around, our whole character around, by switching her negatively on the x-axis of her scale. So let's just do that here, right? So if input.getAxis horizontal, actually, I need to put in a little more here. So just to continue this, I want to say if the x-axis is greater than 0 f for float, and that means then that if our axis value for horizontal is a positive number that's greater than 0, that presumes that we're counting upwards along the x-axis. We're facing right. So what we'll do here is say, we'll create a variable for this. We'll call it private, and we'll make a vector3 variable because we need to account for x, y, z scale. So private vector3 face right, and say it's equal to a new vector3. And we're going to use these exact settings every single time for left and right, so it's worth just creating them once here when we initialize the script. So we can set it just up here, right? So facing right, the value is 1, 1, 1 for x, y, z, and I'll just copy this and paste it, Control V to the line below, and we'll call this face left. And that's going to be -1. Okay, so but only -1 on the x-axis. Y still has to be upright. Z doesn't matter really in 2D, but just leave them as 1, 1, 1. So so what we can do down here then is say transform. And the only components that you don't have to explicitly get in Unity 5 are game object and transform. There were some others like rigid body, but now you have to get those now. So transform dot local scale equals face right, and I will copy this entire if statement as it is. We're going to extend this and just put it down here below this comment, still inside of our fixed update, and paste it there. And so if we'll just say that if our horizontal axis is less than 0, then we'll be facing left. And we'll just change our transform local scale to face left as well. So all we're going to do is just press some buttons on the keyboard and see if she'll face left and right. She won't actually move, but she'll face left and right. So I'm going to Control S and save that script. And we have to, of course, actually apply it to our character as well. So I'm going to go here to Custom. It's just updating. Custom Scripts, take our Sapper controller, drag it onto our Sapper root. There it is. And if I press play now, the keys that have been mapped, left and right cursor keys I'm pressing there, will cause her to face left and right. She doesn't walk yet, but she will turn on the spot. And A and D have also been mapped on the keyboard as well. So in that lesson, all we've done is really just handled left and right by changing the transform of our character. In fact, we can see it up here if I just press play. In the next lesson, what we're going to do is start getting her to actually move using the rigid body component. Okay, so thank you. We'll see you in the next lesson.